we are not condemning people who have put themselves out there. It can be a scary thing to put yourself out there, right? And what I will say is this. I think most of the leaders that are very ignorant to what the gospel actually says, I think they take it very serious what they're doing and would probably sob and cry at the thought that something that they said was a contradiction to the gospel.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
I think that's when you would find that moment that the author of Hebrews talks about. It can be grievous for a time when you're corrected.
Yeah.
Right? That's why so few people will actually let themselves be corrected, especially if they're a minister.
Sure.
They'll feel such great pain at the thought that they had been teaching people wrongly that they don't even want to confront that thing. Listen, I pray to God every day that my own pride won't cause me to hang on to things that aren't true. Right? Mm-hmm. So far, I've seen that I've let things go progressively. But I'm not like, oh, well, I'm just not susceptible to that. Yeah. I would be deceiving myself. Mm-hmm. Right? And so I pray to God every day that I let go of things that aren't true and that I never find myself in the place where I love my doctrines being right more than I love the truth.
Ooh.
Right?
That's good.
Because I always want to go back and examine what I believe with God. Not in but what did Paul say? Examine yourself to see if you're in the faith.
Yeah.
And I always want to go back and examine whether something I'm teaching is in the faith. And I want to be humble enough that the people around me can come to me and suggest, hey, brother, maybe that's not the faith. Maybe this isn't, maybe it's not that way, maybe it's a little more this way.
Yeah.
Where we can at least have a conversation. That's a healthy body.
Sure.
Because every body is supposed to have all of the gifts going together, right? And so if you don't have the gifts with the freedom to talk to each other, then you got one guy pumping doctrine. It's much easier for one guy to be deceived than a whole body.
Yeah.
And it's for one guy to be blind in one area. If you have the rest of the body engaged and a humble guy, the other people could come in and say, hey, what about this?
Yeah.
Have you considered that?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Listen, why the doctrine is so screwed up is because there is never input from the body of Christ. It's only this one guy preaching to them. And what he says goes, and whether he's right, wrong, or indifferent, there's no communication, no dialogue, no seeking of the truth that exists there. He's just doing his thing.
Yeah.
And what you said at the beginning of the thing where you said you examine every thought that you have, and that's scriptural, to bring every thought into captivity, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
And that is something I do. If people could live inside my head, just through the course of today, the amount of scrutiny that I put things that I believe and teach in the fire just today is obscene. It's obscene, just going back over and considering what I say in light of somebody else saying something completely different.
Yeah.
I'm going to sit and consider it. And then what I love about our church is after I consider something for a while, I would go ask you guys. If I thought I taught something really wrong, like sowing and reaping, that just come up, right? This guy that is a big prominent minister in the world. He's got a lot of cachet, teaches something completely opposite about sowing and reaping. That the fruit of the Spirit is actually a principle you work to be blessed.
Ooh.
So you work the fruit of the Spirit, and in working the fruit of the Spirit, you're blessed. Right? And so that just, to me, is as false as it could be.
Yeah.
And I went back and forth with him for a while, and I thought, yeah, it's clear. But all day today, I went back to his page and read all his posts, and opened up the scriptures, and started examining it, just to be sure. And I started considering, what if I'm wrong? Right? And I allowed myself to try to read the scriptures from the perspective that maybe I'm wrong. Although I didn't think I was wrong. Right? But I allowed myself to go and sit and actually read what he says and try to weigh it against things. And if I had concluded I was wrong about sowing and reaping, do you know what I would have done? I would have called Maurice. I would have called you. I would have called Thomas. I would have called Jim Dixon. I would have called my parents. And I would have asked them what they thought about this.
Yeah.
Because maybe I was confused now, right? And hear what they had to say. And that's how the body should work. And that's good for the leaders.
Sure.
It's not good for the leader to just be like, no input, no talk, no nothing.
Yeah.
That's not good for them.